There's a spike of 7,000 new cases of leprosy. It was a controversial medical attorney named Madeleine Cosman. In 2005, she described undocumented immigrants as, quote, deadly time bombs because of the diseases they bring into the country. Cosman, who died last year, has also been criticized for these comments she made about Mexican men.
Recognize that most of these bastards molest girls under age 12, some as young as age 5, others age 3, although, of course, some specialize in boys, some specialize in nuns, some are exceedingly versatile and rape little girls age 11 and women up to age 79. What is important here is the psychiatric defenses. Why do they do what they do? They do not need a jail. They need a hospital. They are depraved because they were deprived in their home country, but more important is the cultural defense. They suffer from psychiatric cognitive disjuncture. For what does a poor man do if in his home country of Mexico, in his jurisdiction, if rape is ranked lower than cow stealing? Of course, he will not know how to behave here in strange America. This is thoroughly reprehensible.
Madeleine Cosman, that's her quote. She actually is not a medical doctor. She's a Renaissance author and scholar of sorts. Lou Dobbs.
What would you have me say, Amy? Because the reality is, what you don't say is that Leonhardt's piece was filled with errors. Secondly, Madeleine Cosman, as we learned following that report in Physicians and Surgeons, the publication, is precisely what you styled her. She is was a whack job. But the New York Times didn't know that either. If you would read the obituary for Madeleine Cosman in the New York Times, have you done that, by the way? She died a year ago, which was, by the way, a year after we had used her as a source in a report, along with other people. Did you read that obituary? Did you find that the New York Times had come to basically the same conclusion we had, that she was a credible source? Because if you read that obituary, it is glowing and filled with plaudits for Madeleine Cosman.
Right,
but I must say this.
The issue is that we as journalists all have our own responsibility.
No, listen to me, Juan. At least we can have some civility. To go through this and try to convey that this is a body of work. I spoke for 8 seconds after that report on tuberculosis and the screening of illegal immigrants into this country. For 8 seconds. And you're trying to project this as if it is a reflective of a body of work. And that, I think, is, I would hope that you would be embarrassed by that.
You're the managing director of your show and editor of your show.
And let me ask you a question. How many people are on the registry for Hansen's disease in this country?
7,000 total.
It's over 7,000.
30 years. You said over the last 3 years because of illegal immigration.
Did I say because of illegal immigration?
Yes.
I said no one knows, but one assumes primarily because they're not being screened. That's what the doctors at the Hansen centers were telling us. Secondly, the issue of if you want to, explode 8 seconds into a whole body of discussion, fine. The reality is, I think you would agree, that if we were screening illegal immigrants as well as legal immigrants, we would probably have a heck of a lot less in the way of tuberculosis in this country. And Hansen's disease.
Okay, Lou, I'd like to take this in a much deeper perspective than just a particular fact, right? Because I've been very concerned about the lack of historical understanding of the immigration battles in our country, going back to the Irish in the 1840s. Father Joseph Fitzpatrick, who was a wonderful sociologist at Fordham University, once did a study of the criminal populations in New York City in 1859, concluded that 83% of all the criminal convictions in 1859 in New York City were Irish. Not Canadian, Scotch, English, or Germans, the other bulk of the population in New York at the time, but were Irish. Right? Henry McLaughlin.
What in the world is your point?
Well, I'm getting to my point. Give me the time to do it. All right? We have time on this show, unlike we don't do sound bites here. Right?
No, and you certainly don't do representative journalism either.
Henry McLaughlin, Lou, was the guy who was the main consultant to the U.S. Congress in developing the immigration restriction laws of the 1920s. A eugenicist who, interestingly enough, examined the facts high crime rates among the immigrant population in the 1920s, tuberculosis, disease, drunkenness, and these were the reasons. His studies of the population, of the immigrant population, were the basis upon which Congress decided on its restrictive laws to limit the number of Southern Europeans, of Jews, and of other nationalities that were coming into the country at the time. My point is that the issue of crime and the issue of disease has always been attempted by those who want to restrict immigration, right? But identified with the immigrant population coming into the country.
You're smarter than this. You're better
You're
than
doing
this.
the same thing that Henry Lackland did in the 1920s, and the same thing that was done against the Irish in the 1850s.
If you believe that, you should look into that camera and say you apologize for trying to mislead people purposefully. The reality is this. Have you ever once heard me say anything other than I have the greatest respect for illegal immigrants in this country? Illegal immigrants. Forget immigrants. Illegal. Have you ever heard me say anything other than that? Have you ever heard me say anything other than I believe that the illegal alien in this entire mess is the only rational actor? Have you ever heard me say that? Have you ever read the transcripts of my broadcast?
Yes, I read quite a few of your transcripts. Not all of them. I have to confess.
Would you like to tell me? Have you ever heard me say anything other than that? Have you ever heard me say that I want to have immigration restricted? I mean, my God, man, do you have any sense of fidelity to the reality?
Yes, I do.
Then how in the world can you use my name and anti-immigrant in the same breath?
When we hear comments like a third of the from you, we've played them, so we can't refute the videotape, Lou. We can't refute. A third of prisoners
have we discussed that?
Are illegal immigrants. No, a third of prisoners are illegal immigrants. Not true. 7,000 leprosy cases in the last 3 years because of illegal immigrants.
Romans
not
misspoke.
True.
We said that, and that's as straightforward as we can put it.
And you made an announcement on your show.
Absolutely.
And you will say it here. That it is not true. Illegal immigrants are not responsible for 7,000 cases of leprosy over the last 3 years.
Not over the last 3 years. But, but the likelihood is that illegal immigrants are responsible because they are the ones who brought Hansen's disease.
Based on what, Lou?
Based on doctors at the Hansen Center who said that, listen to me, Hansen's, I mean, if you guys are just ridiculous in your loss of proportion here. You're talking about one report. But if you want to talk about it, tuberculosis and Hansen's disease are both screened, and they are so similar in the symptoms and their presentation that doctors look for that in the screening, without question.
But as you agree now, you're formally apologizing for having a presentation on your show and then backing it up. Again, this is not just one show.
Referring to 3 years, okay?
So you're saying that illegal immigrants have caused 7,000 cases of leprosy over 30 years?
No, I'm saying the likelihood is that those cases of Hansen's disease are, according to the doctors at the Hansen Center, most likely as a result of illegal immigration.
You know the fear. Well, the reason.
How about tuberculosis? Does that concern you?
Let me just say something.
Right.
The reason we're raising these issues is not any one particular case, though I think facts matter.
You're giving more focus to this issue. We put one report, 8 seconds, and you are giving an entire broadcast to this.
No, it is well more than 8 seconds. But I want to make a point here. Even when you were called on it by 60 Minutes, they played a clip.
Right.
You came back the next day, and you continued this fallacy. But the issue is we're raising different issues in different spheres of American life, prisons, disease. And in each of these cases, what many people are concerned about, what you're doing, because there is no question, Lou Dobbs, you are extremely influential in this country. You are a key part of the driving the debate on immigration.
Right.
And so